So guys, we are on our way now down to the boat to get started with this beautiful Caiman night, man. I'm so excited. Chris has already given us the talk just to give you guys an understanding on, why they go out, why they look for Caimans, what we're going to be looking for, what that data is used for. So there's a lot of things that are going to come into play tonight. But I'm walking down to the boat now. As you can see, everybody, in the focus. Here's Mr. Patty. He's going to be recording our data tonight. But we're going to cue in Chris now, give you guys an understanding on why we're going down and looking for these Caimans. There are 3 species, which I'll let him explain once we catch one. And then I'll cue in some footage of me holding one, hopefully. So hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video, man, and you know what to do. Time to get to the herping.
All right, well, tonight we are going to go out and do our first Caiman survey since my man Jacob here arrived. And yeah, just a couple things about how we do it, why we do it, and then talk specifically about how we're going to capture them if we can and what data we'll collect. So in terms of how we do it, we set up transects across the major rivers in the area. I mean, we're in Tambopata here, so that's where a lot of our data is from. We have some data from Las Piedras River as well, but most of our data is from Tambopata River. And these transects are approximately 4 kilometers long as the river runs, not like literally in a straight line as the bird would fly, but as the river runs. They could be 380, they can be 420, but they're expected to be 4 kilometers long. We'll go out obviously with the boat driver and myself. I'll be using the light to look for eye shine because Caimans obviously have a very strong eye shine. And when we see a Caiman, I'll be using the light to indicate to the driver that there's something there, and up and down for him means to go in that direction. So when we see one, we will go toward it. We'll attempt to capture it. That doesn't always work. In fact, the capture rate is reasonably low because they often, they swim and they can dive under the water, and I can't really do that. So it's pretty hard to capture them when they're in the muddy water. But we try to get as close as we can carefully, and then when we get close to them, if they're floating in the water, then we can try to capture them in the water. If they're up on the beach or on the rocks, then we can. It's a lot easier, and we can capture them there. In terms of what we can get out of that data, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things we can get. One of the biggest things is just basically relative abundance of Caimans along the area. Obviously, if you do enough transects, it's similar in many ways to what we do with the herps in the herp research plot. Although the difference is we're not measuring perpendicular distance animal because the river is pretty much set. We're just kind of assuming that we see, I wouldn't say 100% encounter rate, but it's higher than 90% is the idea. It's very, very high. So we're able to just pretty crudely and pretty accurately look at relative abundance. If you do enough transects over enough distance, this is how many you encounter per kilometer, per 4 kilometer, however you want to do that ratio. And you can look at different sections of the river, different rivers in the area, different seasonal activity. One of the things we had an intern do recently was look at the impact of ecotourism and whether that impacted their distribution along the river. Short answer, not disclosed results, is basically no, it didn't. Although it did impact their behavior, it didn't impact their distribution. So those are some of the things we can look at. When we capture them, we will be doing a number of things. We'll be measuring their total body length, their snout to vent length, which is standard for any reptile. We'll also be measuring the head width and the head length, which when we get out there, I'll show you how that works. We'll be looking for any injuries on the body. So Caimans they live a long life and they go through a lot, especially when they're young, but even when they're older. Whether it is avoiding predation from even their own species or other species, or whether it's avoiding predation from other animals, whether it's fighting for females, they go through a lot in their life. And this can result, not surprisingly, in scars. It can result in loss of scutes, which are sort of the spikes on the back of the Caiman. It can result in loss of tail, loss of feet, loss of eyes, loss of snout. We've seen everything. And some of these are natural, many of them are, but many of them are sadly not. If the tail is gone, if the snout is half gone, that's usually a boat motor impact. Mm-hmm. So by recording this, it gives us, again, another metric about the overall health of Caimans in the region. I mean, clearly, if you see a significant amount with severe injuries in one area and not in the other, that could be a result of either human activity or overcrowding, lack of resources. Again, potentially, you could look for something and possibly correlate to that, something in their environment. We'll also be trying to sex them, which for juveniles, very small individuals, is essentially impossible because the reproductive organs haven't really developed enough to be able to identify the sex. Mm-hmm. But for older individuals, those are up to around a meter, even 0.75 meters and over, you can usually pretty reliably identify male or female. And then we will also be attempting to weigh them, which is possible for most individuals, although once they get to about 2 meters, we just don't have the capability to really hang them in the air at that weight because they weigh, 25 to 50 kilos or more. But once they are, when they're under 1.5 meters, we can often attempt to weigh them. 1.5 might be pushing it, but yeah, 1.2. We'll see. We try to weigh them when we can. Let's just put it that way. And then we will also be scanning for the presence of a pit tag, which is a passive integrated transponder. It's the same type of thing you'd use to microchip your dog or cat. We'll be scanning for the presence of that in the tail, and if it's not there, we'll be inserting a pit tag in them. And pit tag data gives us sort of the classic mark recapture type data. We can potentially use that data to determine the density of the species in the area, but not only that, and I would argue Caiman is probably even more than that, we can determine dispersal. So if we catch one when it's young and tag it, then we can determine, okay, well, it's here when it's really young, and now maybe 20 years later, literally, it's way down there. I mean, they live a long time. We can also tell potentially home range size. So if we catch one and tag it when it's relatively old and a subadult or an adult, and then we catch it multiple times in the same area, we can, with a pretty safe level of confidence, determine that this is its range. It's this part of the river, because they never caught it anywhere else. So yeah, the pit tags are quite useful for giving us the ability to identify individuals that we captured before to be able to use again. So yeah, that's kind of how we'll do it. We'll bring them up into the boat. We'll do what we have to do with them, and then after that, we'll release them.
You want to say hi, Chris?
Hola, amigos. Shall I hook up the head thing?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's right here.
Cool. You gonna do the break? I can, yeah. So you want to get set up for that?
Got the GoPro going on the front of Mr. Ketola here. I'm gonna try to get you guys some beautiful footage of him hanging off the side of this Yi boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We all good? Remember, guys, once we get started, we gotta make sure we're lined up properly too.
Yeah, right now it will help.
24-0.
Chris, what's the raincoat?
Raincoat is 1.
Sky coat?
Sky coat. 0 for now.
On the bank, I think he thinks there's one on the bank.
No, I see it.
Aquí está, ahí en el suelo. Ahí está. Ahí está.
The GoPro. Yeah, so we literally just missed that one, guys, as you could see in the video previously with Chris. It was literally small, would look like a small, few meter long white caiman that was right on the edge of the boat, and you could see he ducked down basically. So we're back out here on the river again, searching, hoping that we found something great for you guys, man. So guys, unfortunately, we did go out tonight. We looked for some caiman. We saw maybe 6 or 7 white caiman, a few black caiman, but unfortunately some of the beaches that he had to go off on, the mud was just way too thick. It basically went up to knee level, so he couldn't even go and catch them. So tonight we didn't catch anything, unfortunately, but we will be going out to look again here in a few nights, and when we do so, I am going to be recording. So I'm just going to shoot this clip right over to the next one, That way we can show you guys what we catch, hopefully, man. Oh, didn't see you guys there. Sorry, today's video got cut short, unfortunately. We did go out searching for caimans that one night. Found some pretty decent footage. Nothing that was capturable, unfortunately, but you know, I figured I'd still post a video. That way you guys can kind of see, get an idea of how the entire night works here at Fauna Forever with the Caiman nights. Unfortunately, I did have to move my flight back a bit, so I only got one chance to go out on a Caiman night because they were kind of in between drivers and construction, and of course transects had to be open, and a lot of things had to be done because they were closed for a year due to COVID. So not really an issue for me, but hope you guys enjoyed the footage, man. We got to see a bunch of different kinds of white caiman, a few black caiman, no dwarf caimans unfortunately, but I'm sure for whomever may come to Fauna Forever in the near future, you may find something, you know, cool or even cooler, maybe a larger species of white caiman. In this video, I'll kind of give you an idea of what you guys will be working your way into. And for all of those people at home who are already subscribed, thank you for tuning into another video. And today is probably going to be a short one, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Like I said before, and make sure that you are smashing the like button, subscribed, and comment. The more comments, the more subscribers that we can get here on the channel, the more money that I can donate to programs like this one. That way I can come out, work with them, show you guys the amazing work that we're doing. It's like a win-win for both of us because the money's not going into my pocket, it's going into theirs. And I also get to come out and record beautiful things like this. So really, really hope you guys enjoyed the video, man. The Real Herb Hero, signing out, baby.
The data sheet is pretty straightforward, and I know you know Patty's done plenty of these with me. He's going to be helping out a little bit to record that. This is all pretty straightforward. What species? When did you see it? When did you catch it? What's the tag number? What's the location? We do need to GPS the location of every single encounter, also the beginning and the end of the transit. Is it a recapture? Yes or no? Is it male, female? How big is it? What's its weight? Pretty straightforward. But we also have to record information such as does it have parasites or not, because that's another thing I didn't mention. We'll be looking for parasites in the eyes. Does it have injuries? If so, what are they? What is it doing? Was it floating? Was it on the beach? Where was it? What was the substrate? So was it in the water? Was it on grass? Was it on sand? Was it on a log? Water velocity is something we're not using a unit tonight, so just ignore that. And then we also, one thing we started doing recently, me and an intern worked this out, and we're going to continue doing it, is looking at the behavior of the caimans. So we want to know, are they displaying definitive avoidance behavior? And I was inspired to add this because my trip to Costa Rica, seeing the same species in Costa Rica where they're not captured for tourism regularly, they act like puppies. They sit right beside a dock and you can almost touch them in the head. Wow. They're so calm. And here, they're super sketchy. So it's markedly different, like night and day, completely different. So I want us to look at the behavior of caimans across different parts of the river, different areas. And as I kind of hinted at already, this intern who did a month-long project with us, her results essentially indicated strongly that there is a correlation between increased tourism behavior, increased tourism activity, and avoidance behavior. It just didn't reach statistical significance because the sample size wasn't big enough. But I think with a big enough sample size, we'll be able to say that yes, they are acting a little bit more scared of boats and people because of the presence of humans and the repeated capture attempts. We can discuss that topic. It's good and bad. That doesn't matter. That's another topic. But anyways, we want to see if it's happening, right? Any notes about the individuals is important because you never know what you're going to get. And then there's some codes in the back which we want to write down some environmental variables that are important. So for, in other words, what is the rain, which is the same thing we do for herps. Did it rain, did it not, and then how much rain, etc. And also river, because the river height can be very important for them. So we want to determine, it's kind of a subjective evaluation. We're not going to go out there with a stick and stick it in the river because, well, that's not really possible. And it's even if you did that here, if you surveyed downriver, you couldn't use the same stick there. So what's more relevant is what is the environment like from a caiman's perspective? And we've established 5 different levels the river can be at. And tonight it's going to be between a 1 and a 2, depending. When we get out there, I'll make that decision. But 1 is extremely low, 5 is extremely high, and then 2, 3, 4 is kind of in between. And again, it's interesting to see, do we get more encounters when it's high, when it's low? Is there more clustering of individuals, more clumping? Is there less? It's just good to have that data. Sometimes this type of data you never really know if it'll be useful until you collect it and you run an analysis later on. So we'll put all that up here for the survey itself before we even capture anything. And if we do see caimans and we can't capture them, which will definitely happen, absolutely. There's many caimans, whether they get away from us or whether it's caimans we simply can't approach because it's not safe, because we can't crash the boat to get a caiman, clearly. We will do our best to get as close as we can, and identify the species and estimate the size. So normally you can tell the species if you get a decent look at it. Usually I can tell. And if I see a caiman, based on the head size, width, and again, just experience with the species, we'll make an estimation to a 0.25 meter accuracy of what it is. So I'll often call out to the person doing this, it got away, but it's 0.5, 0.75, 1, 1.25, etc. It's obviously not as good as capturing them, but it gives us an idea of, generally speaking, do we have a lot of tiny ones, a lot of big ones, or a mixture of both? That's why even if we can't actually physically capture, we want to estimate the size. And we need to write down in here that it's the TDL, that it's an estimate as opposed to a real measurement, although it's pretty straightforward in here that it'll say that. So yeah, that's pretty much how we're going to do it. Reminder again, you all hear this in the health and safety, but a reminder again, no lights on while we're searching. The person who's doing the data, so that'll be Patty, and I think probably Patty and Valero mostly will be recording the data tonight. They are allowed to use headlamps at the lowest setting only when you need to write data, because you have to see, and then after that it's off again. And it's only down here, it's very minimal, and it's off again. When we stop, if we capture a caiman, it's different. Photos, cameras, just fine. I don't care. As long as it's safe for your perspective, and as long as we don't submit the caiman to excessive holding, excessive stress, which I'll monitor, then I don't mind lights then when the boat's not moving. When the boat is moving, definitely. And also, if we have to, sometimes we may have to switch the sides of the boat to get it leveled more. That's very important because we're at night on rapids and moving around. We don't want it off. And if you see something and you're on the wrong side, don't stand up and lean over, because that's going to cause us to sink. So stay where you are. You can look, but don't be switching sides back and forth. It's the instinct to want to get up and look, but don't do that. Just stay in your seat, and you will see caimans, I'm sure, whether hopefully in your hand, but you'll definitely see them. So we don't need to sink the boat to see them. So yeah, it could take anywhere from 1 hour if we don't see many to, I've had them go over 3 hours, because you never know what you're going to encounter, and we'll just have to see how long it takes. So yeah, so vamos en 10 minutos.
Sounds good. Thank you.